Peddie. I run a business called Resilient People, and it's a business that is focused on mental, emotional, and physical well-being, and enabling people to find their purpose, whether they are in the workplace or whether it's in their home place. So practical tips and techniques in terms of self-management, self-care, and self-compassion.
Very nice. And then Tracy Feinstein. Tracy, if you could introduce yourself and share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much. And to the other panelists, to Nick and Joni, and to Kevin for putting it together. My name is Tracy Feinstein, and I'm here representing SADAG, which is the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. We, together with Shukalulu Investment, last year launched this NPOwer line, and SADAG is the mental health go-to organization in South Africa. We advocates for mental health. We run a national suicide crisis line, and we provide service 24/7, 365 to anybody who is looking to get guidance, support, and help through the difficult times that we all are experiencing right now. And very often what we find is that a lot of our callers are not only phoning to get direction for a specific chronic mental illness, but what we realize more and more is, especially since this lockdown and COVID has hit the world, so many people are now dramatically affected and impacted and having to learn how to deal with depression and anxiety, which I know we're going to have a discussion about today. So thank you very much for the platform.
That's fine. So I think one of the first questions that I really wanted to explore is specifically within the events and entertainment industry. You know, how big a problem is anxiety and depression? And so I'm going to launch a quick poll, which should now be open, and I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes just to provide the answer to the question. So, you know, we want to try and get some feedback in terms of how much of a challenge this is. So while we're collecting the responses, here we go. So around 70% say yes, been an emotional roller coaster, 39%. So here we go. I'm going to close the poll now, and let's just share the results and see how the figures look. And looking at this, 63% yes, it's been an emotional roller coaster. 25% not just me, it's impacted our entire family. So certainly something that seems to impact everybody. And Nick, if you could just, you know, pick up on this and talk specifically about anxiety, depression, and everything else associated with it, specifically within the markets that we're active in. Okay, cool. Thanks, Kevin. And that was interesting to see the poll. I'd like to see the 13% who've handled it without any problems. You know, and I didn't introduce myself very well earlier, so I'm with Showcom, a communications company, mainly intercom and kind of radio stuff for shows. As you can imagine, from the middle of March last year, from the first announcement, it cancelled all our order book completely, and the lockdown began, and the journey began into this pandemic, and I guess all the consequences of that. And you know, it's definitely, for me, I would have been one of the 70-odd% there that it's been an emotional roller coaster. It's been, I mean, we're pretty much a year in now. You know, we're 2 weeks shy of when that announcement was made, that first announcement. So, you know, we were straight away from that first announcement before lockdown. We went basically into closure, and it has been one of the toughest things I've ever done. I would almost say, if I look back on last year, it's the initial impact was, it was hard, but I think I had a lot of resilience, and I think I saw an end to this in 6 to 9 months. So in my head and subconsciously, I really thought, you know, by kind of after winter last year, we would be seeing the end of it, and we would come out and we would start getting busy, and things would kind of get back to normal in some way. And I guess to a degree, they did in kind of November, December. But of course, then we went back into lockdown. I mean, handling that first bit, you know, like the level 4, level 5 was, I've almost romanticized with it now, but at the time it was happening, it was extremely stressful. You know, I've got a fairly interesting history. You know, I have suffered from alcohol abuse or alcoholism. I've been in recovery from that for many, many years. You know, but the wanting to not feel what I was feeling, and the not wanting to be in the moment was really difficult. And I really had to find ways to cope with the kind of impending doom feeling I had, and that just stress of trying to juggle. I mean, all my family are in arts. I have two, actually. One of my sons is not. He's actually in hotels, so just as impacted. My eldest son's in Hollywood. He's an actor. So it suddenly ended up with our whole family was basically without income, and was suddenly under this tremendous pressure emotionally, financially. And the way, you know, that I kind of, you know, started to deal with it was I realized that I needed to keep some kind of, I guess, schedule in my life, and be actively doing something every day, because, you know, if I end up, I guess, you know, it's quite a lonely place, you know, lockdown, especially though that first kind of 6 odd months. And, you know, so for me to be in my own head is a very, very dangerous place. So, you know, the first thing, I think, like probably a lot of people out there, you know, the first thing I did was I found, you know, anything to do, you know, from painting a wall that needed painting for the last 3 years, to in the house, you know, to any kind of repairs, anything that needed doing. And you know, I would spend my time doing that. I would always make sure I got out of bed at the same time. I'd always make sure I ate, because food for me can be a real issue if I don't eat. You know, being tired, I make sure I go to bed at the same time. So I try to keep a routine and a schedule in place. As I ran out of things to do, I would introduce new things. You know, I knew I wasn't going to go going back to work. You know, and you know, and as time progressed, I mean, I have had hobbies that I've had since childhood. I started to put myself back into those hobbies, and just really, you know, just trying to build something outside of the industry and outside of the thought of the industry reopening. I mean, as long and as it dragged on, I think by November I realized, looking at other countries, and how they were progressing and how they were dealing with the pandemic, I realized by November that 2021 was actually not going to be any better. In fact, in some ways, I realized that it would be worse. And I'd always kind of realized that by January, February, March would probably be my toughest months, and they have been. And you know, I think, you know, it's amazing some of the things I've found myself doing to cope with this. I mean, I think things that I didn't even discuss with you guys during the build up to this. I did 5 months in the hospital as a volunteer. And that was really, really, that really helped me a lot. I was doing 2-3 days a week in my local hospital. And funnily enough, I was doing communications. I was doing pharmacy deliveries and communications to the patients, sometimes in the COVID wards, sometimes in the high risk wards, and just so families could communicate with their loved ones because they couldn't visit them. And I found I was just trying to reach out and do anything to kind of fill my time, and get me through that. And I got to say, that was a really really good thing that I got involved with there. And but yeah, I mean, this year particularly, I knew the financial pressure would be on now. I mean, you know, I had family, I had friends, everyone was helping each other. Now everyone is really starting to feel, I think, a different level and a different form of anxiety and depression. I mean, is this ever going to end? That's the feeling I kind of have all the time now. And I feel that I'm starting to look outside of the industry. You know, I focused a lot in the first 6 to 9 months of also trying to reinvent something that could maybe, you know, cut more into the new virtual world that we all found ourselves in, you know, in events. And the truth is, you know, I did work very hard on an IP-based solution for comms and stuff like that. And yes, it filled time, and yes, it was mentally good for me. But I mean, ultimately, nobody seemed to really want it, you know, and the financial strain of it was that that I think now I don't think people have the funds to actually invest in a lot of the events anymore. I mean, it seems to me in a lot of ways that a lot of people have kind of given up, and I think now they're almost relying on the vaccine being the solution, and whatever timescale that may be. And me personally, I think that's probably the best part of 2 years. You know, so I'm starting to really not put my energy into the industry, which is really sad. I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years. And, you know, right now I'm just trying to look at other ways to not only, I guess, produce a bit of income for my family and my kids. I mean, we're all in the same boat. But I mean, the most important thing is to deal with that mental stress, because it is there. I think you're very, very lucky if you haven't had that at all. I mean, I'd say 70% of the time I probably am fine. I'm focused enough on a hobby or a social thing or helping someone or doing something where I don't really feel it, you know, that kind of ignorance is bliss kind of thing. But there is days when I wake up and I just don't want it anymore. You know, I just don't want to go through this. You know, this is the implications and the consequences of this year or 2 years or 3 years, whatever it may be. It could be more. Are long reaching. You know, this is going to affect probably the rest of my working career. And yeah, so it has been a roller coaster for me. I mean, I've been lucky enough to do a couple of events during this last year. And I'm not going to, it doesn't matter about the names of the events or anything like that, but it was so lovely to do an event in, I did 2 actually in November and December last year, fairly decent sized events, obviously no audience allowed, but to see friends, colleagues, and actually be able to share our stories like I'm doing now, and like, you know, like I found that probably one of the most healing and helpful bits of all, because we all sit at home, we all think, why me, but the truth is it's not just me. There is so many people, almost everybody I know, and it's not just South Africa. I've traveled the world pretty much all my life. I've worked in so many countries, and there's nobody I know who has not gone through life-changing events during this last year. You know, the fact from family. I mean, I've lost a lot of friends. You know, I'm probably up to a dozen people I know now, friends, family, who've you know, died one way or the other from COVID, and you know, and they're all from different walks of life and different age groups. And you know, that's one side of it. You know, the job losses, that side of it. There's so many elements to this, and but talking about it has been really, really useful. I mean, one of the things about being a volunteer in the hospital was I got to see people firsthand who were really, really going through a level that that I don't think you'd be aware of, you know, and unless you suddenly threw yourself into that circle. And it made me realize how actually fortunate I am in a lot of ways. You know, I mean, I spend most of my time, you know, juggling my life at the moment and trying to deal with the different things that are thrown at me, because life hasn't stopped, you know, and yeah, so it's been absolutely, I don't think there's not many words that can explain it, really. Roller coaster is a good one. I mean, roller coaster really does kind of sum it up. It's, you know, I mean, tomorrow I'm going, you know, one of my hobbies was always kind of motorbikes and vintage bikes. And I'm actually going on a big ride tomorrow. COVID regulations in place, only a few of us going. But, you know, it's given me something to do. I'm preparing for it. And so if I get anything to do at the moment, I make a point of really, really taking time, you know, and making sure it fills up a part of my scheduled day. And that, because that really helps me get through that. You know, I'm busy every day. I make myself busy every morning. It doesn't matter what it is. I will always keep myself busy, and probably through till mid-afternoon. And then I'm actually okay for the rest of the day. But if I start a day with nothing to do and lost in my own head, it's not going to be a great result. And with my history, I can't afford to take that risk, you know. So, yep. Yeah, it's been really a big journey. And I know the industry itself, I mean, you know, we've had pockets of kind of hope and stuff. And for sure, you know, it will come back. The industry will come back. It will come back, I'm sure, in pockets, and it will start, you know, at a small level, and it will end up building up. I mean, we've all seen now what Europe's trying to achieve, I think, in the next bunch of months. You know, the UK is trying to head for 10,000 people into football stadiums by, I think it was the end of May or June. You know, and obviously I'm going to be watching that and keeping an eye on it, because what other countries achieve, we will be doing at some point after. I'm hoping sooner than later. But, you know, it definitely will get better. Unfortunately, the timeline is just completely out of our hands, and that's another thing I've needed to do. I've surrendered to all of it. So, you know, it is what it is. It will take as long as it does.
So yeah. If I can just hit the pause button, because actually I want to bring Tracy in here, and what I want to do is to say to our audience, we've got 65 people now here. If you have any questions, please put them into the question box and send them in, and we'll do our best to accommodate them as we progress. Tracy, maybe you can just pick up on what Nick's been saying, and before you do, I'm just going to launch another poll, and the question that I wanted to ask here is what have people, how have people responded to the pandemic? So again, I'm going to leave it open for a couple of seconds and just see what people have to say, and whether they have reached out and secured the help that perhaps they need, whether they've, you know, what can you do? You speak to the family priest if you're a religious person, you know, offload on your family, as Nick said. Interesting challenge. At this stage, 63% of people on the webinar have voted. I'm going to leave it open for a couple more seconds. But where is the burden that people are carrying, and who are they offloading on? What help do they need? So here we are, 55 seconds, 71% of the people have shared their opinion, and there's the results. Yes, 50% offloaded on family and friends. 29% have just sucked it up. And I think, you know, that's one of the big challenges that we have in our industry, is that we all want to be cowboys, and cowboys don't cry. So Tracy, maybe you can just pick up on this, and thank you. I see that there are some questions coming through from the audience. Sapiware asks, what are some of the practical coping mechanisms I can use? And I think that's a question that both Tracy and Joni are going to be answering. So yeah, let me close that particular. Here we go. Sorry, I should have shared it first. That's the result. And now I'm going to close it up, and hopefully Tracy can give us some feedback.
Yes, thank you so much, Kevin. And, you know, listening to Nick speaking, it really brings home to all of us that this industry has been affected and impacted dramatically. And so whilst it may be yourself who's on the webinar today, or a friend, a family member, a loved one, I think the important thing is for you to realize that there is help out there. Unfortunately, none of us here today have a magic wand that can suddenly change it. And I think what I'm going to just do over the next 5 to 10 minutes is to put a bit of context into understanding and being able to recognize the really early warning signs. Unfortunately, we're almost 12 months into some form of lockdown, and for a lot of people, these are not any longer early warning signs. So you may recognize some of these things in yourself and go, wow, I actually do need to get help. And I think that Joni has fantastic ideas in terms of the tips and tools of how to get it better, and how to rebound and come back. The idea is that I think when we first experienced the significant worldwide change, which we all faced last year, for many of us, it was quite an exciting and exuberant change. I remember my family, my kids were saying, wow, we're off for 2 weeks, everything's shutting, it's closing. And we really lived in this la-la land bubble world that we were going to have a holiday for 3 weeks in a month. Well, it's changed, and it's not like that. And when we look at our mental health and our mental well-being, one of the things that is common to any illness or any emotional experience is that change is always hard. And it's especially harder when it's not by choice. None of us chose this. And so, interesting enough, one of the behavior changes or expressions of depression, and especially for males, is that they manifest their depression through anger and anger behavior, lashing out, swearing, hitting, and that is something that we need to be aware of. So I think what is important is I want to try and put this little bit into a bit of context for you so that you can actually realize that where we are right now and what a lot of the feelings and emotions you are experiencing, number one, they may be very normal. But because we have endured this experience for so long, you need to realize that just maybe for yourself, it's a good idea to get help. So what are the typical signs of anxiety? And we tend to brush over this. What I can say is that the signs of anxiety are actually a very normal physiological body response to fear. We're actually hardwired to respond, so it's okay. However, the overwhelming exposure to all these things that create fear in our lives, pressure, stress, no job, no income, ill health, fear of the pandemic, the list is endless. The loss, the grief that people are experiencing because of loved ones dying. Okay, this fuels that experience in your body. And the tricky thing about understanding mental illness, both depression and anxiety, is that often it manifests differently for different people. And this is why so often there is that element of stigma, because we hold back in terms of reaching out or going and getting support. So for example, if I was a person who had this overwhelming, fear, anxiety was building up because I was out of a job, I could see that my income source was getting rapidly depleted. I'm getting really concerned about having to tip into lifetime savings, or maybe there isn't lifetime savings to tip into, but my financial situation is getting affected and it's really putting pressure on me. The problem starts to happen is that, for example, I may really battle with sleep. I may experience a tightness in the chest. Somebody like Nick may experience heart palpitations. Joni may be the type of person who feels this tightness closing up in her throat. And for whatever reason, Kevin is the person who just bursts into tears. And when somebody says, "What's wrong?" we just say, "I don't know, but everything is wrong." And these are the early signs where you need to say something is not right. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter that you can't pinpoint it. It doesn't matter that you're not able to say, "I've got financial problems and I don't know how I'm going to keep this roof over the head, my family's head, even for next month." The greatest gift you can do is humble yourself and say, "I need help." And that is what one of our service lines does, this NPOwer line, 0800 515 515, is phone that number and start the process of reaching out. It's not a magic fix, but it certainly can give you a little bit of direction. Because what happens in our heads, in our minds, the moment we are starting to feel these experiences, these physiological body experiences of anxiety and even depression, is that we lose focus. We lose that inability to concentrate, to prioritize. And that is what fuels the element of depression. So it starts with anxiety. If you are able to control those thoughts, and I'm not going to talk further on that because that's Joni's area of speciality, but if you are able to control the thoughts and just say, "There's a problem, I need help. Let me phone a toll-free helpline, 24/7, 365. There will be somebody who just may give me a small element of context that will make tomorrow different." And please note what I've said. It will make tomorrow different. It may not be better. So, early warning signs of anxiety, the inability to sleep. And so what actually happens is you wake up tired, but you think, "I've been sleeping all night," but you haven't had good sleep. You haven't gone into that deep REM sleep process. You also experience the lethargy, the fear of even going to exercise, because what's happened is your entire upper body, the chest, the heart, the throat, your vagus nerve, everything is tightened up. And so what happens is you think, "I can't go and exercise, I can't go outside because maybe I am really sick." And so already the physiological experience is starting to fuel those thoughts in your head. The one thing I can say to you is once you start to see those things and understand that this is real, it's happening, you need to control your breathing. You need to reach out, get help. And very often it is a good idea to just go and see a simple GP. Not everyone needs to go to a psychologist. And that's the simplicity of some of the services that we remind people about when they phone the helpline or they phone any one of the SADAG toll-free numbers. Go to your GP. The combination of having to handle a mental illness means that for some people you may need medication. It's a good idea to go for therapy, and therapy comes in different forms. And then there is the element of what you need to do, and we call those self-help tips. So I like to say, when you are battling with anxiety, which a lot of people are, and particularly in your industry, because the fear of the unknown is overwhelming, is you need to manage your breathing. Exactly like Nick said, establish a routine. It is so vitally important. You've got to get out of bed. And for those of you that are going through anxiety and it's even tipping down into depression, if the only thing you get out of bed, you do on a particular morning is to get out of bed, make your bed and have a shower. And for ladies, put on a bit of lipstick. I always say that. Then you've done okay. And that has to be good enough. One of the things that we also encourage you in this battling and unsettling time, this disturbing time, which is affecting your mental state and well-being, is to do what Nick did, is to volunteer. So within this network, okay, it's a great resource. And you know what? You will find another purpose, because that's what drives depression, is I don't have a purpose. I'm not good enough. I'm not okay. So if you love working with animals, if you love working with babies, if you like working with children, go into your community, go to the school, knock on the door, say, how can I help you? Find something that can reignite that passion and find your purpose. I want to just wrap up, because I also want to leave time for questions and answers. But I think what I want to leave with you is the element of reach out for some support. And it starts with picking up the phone and talking to somebody. And whilst a lot of you in the poll have alluded to the fact that you have just chatted to friends and family, that's a great first start. But I think there comes a time where it's always good to get an unemotional outside opinion. And so that's also part of the platform of today, is to let you know that there is a lot of other help. And afterwards, Kevin's going to be able to share with you a lot of our details so that you can reach out. So I think it's a good time to hand over to Joni to give you the magic trick, so that you can try and feel a little bit better and know that there is support and help out there. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. So before we go to Jodi, I'm just going to open up another poll, and I also I put the NPOwer support number up as you were talking, but I thought I would just read out a comment from Aldred Dreyer, who posted in our question box. They say, in order to cope with stress and anxiety, the best coping mechanism is to be out there helping others, doing community work, etc. How do you stay committed to following through with such activities if you don't even have 50 Rand in your pocket? Not having an income stresses you out so much that you go into a cocoon mode, slaving away to try and get the next Rand in your bank account. The rest of the time you sit in front of the TV vegetating. What can we do to create the balance to still remain sane and avoid going into a negative spiral? So a great comment or question from Aldred, and in fact it takes me very nicely into another of our poll questions. How has your behavior changed during this COVID pandemic? So I'm going to leave it up for perhaps 30 seconds. I'm hoping we can encourage people to vote a little faster, and then we'll hand over to Jodi to see what her response to this is. Looks like yes, Jodi introduced me to this phrase yesterday, corona somnia, which I thought was a great description. So come, vote with your fingers. 53%, 56%, and I am going to close the poll in 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, closed. Here we go. And I'm going to share the results so that we can see what they are. 17% binge drinking and or eating, 33% binge Netflix, 44% low self-esteem, 33% short fuse, ready to explode. So Joni, maybe you can just respond to some of those. And as I said, we are monitoring questions. So as the questions come in, I'll allocate them to one of our speakers. Please keep the questions coming. Joni, over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Kevin. So I'd really like to thread together what we've heard. And Nick started on such a good note and really speaking about this roller coaster time. But what I loved about what you said, Nick, was just that, you know, we all thought 6 to 9 months, you know, after that initial 23rd of March lockdown, that it would be over. And you're so right. It's this protracted not knowing. It's the protracted, unprecedented times. And for many people in our industry, January is always hard. But here we are in 2021, January, February, March is so hard. And we just don't know when the tide is going to turn. So Nick just spoke so beautifully about that. And I'm going to touch on some of the very good self-management techniques that he has suggested, and also that Tracy has suggested, with some practical how. So I would like to do this in the most pragmatic way. In fact, I deliver a keynote talk on this in 60 to 90 minutes, but we're going to do this fast, Kevin, in 15 minutes. So if you can lift up your left hand, you're going to take this left hand wherever you go. So this is going to be 5 resilience techniques for you to use today. And it will be memorable, because every time you look at your left hand, you're going to go, oh my goodness gracious me, I need to do one of these 5 things right now. So Tracy spoke so beautifully about that first sign of anxiety, about the inability to sleep, and Kevin said about the corona, some insomnia. So this pinky finger, I don't know about you growing up, but I used to say to my parents, I pinky promise that, you know, after my bath, I'm going to clean up my bedroom. Or I pinky promise that I'll wash the dishes tonight after supper. So we make these pinky promises to ourselves. If you have to switch off in the next 30 seconds because you have another thing to do, I'm telling you that your pinky promise has got to be looking at your sleep routine. It is a game changer. So we will become emotionally distressed if we are not getting 7 hours of sleep a night. So many of us are not doing this pinky promise to ourselves. And why? Because the very poll that Kevin's just put up for us, 33% of us are binge watching Netflix. Or unfortunately, we are using alcohol to obliterate and not to celebrate. So you've really got to have a look at how you self-manage at the end of the day. And I'll come back to the beginning of the day just now, but let's just think about sleep. Sleep really does start from the minute that you wake up. But at the end of the day, how do you put a full stop to your day? Whether you're working or not working, we need to look at the self-management. And I'll just share a few practical tips about what I do and what I share with my delegates. Is the first thing is that 60 to 90 minutes before I go to sleep, I do go to sleep early. So I'm asleep by 9:30 because I get up at 4:30 to run and do various things. So at about 8 o'clock at night, I switch off my TV, my laptop, and my cell phone. That blue light that is coming from your mobile phone into your pineal gland will affect your melatonin production. So Tracy spoke so well about that deep sleep, that stage 4 sleep that gets rid of a toxin buildup in your brain. So let's just talk about that for 30 seconds. You have plaque between your teeth that builds up during the day. Well, your neurons, if these 2 circles here are neurons, you have beta amyloid build up as plaque between your neurons. So we have got to flush that out on a daily basis. And this is the conductor that conducts the whole orchestra of your body, your emotions, how you think, how you feel physiologically. So you really have to honor your brain and honor the fact that you need a minimum 7 hours. So some of the things I do is I switch off my devices. So it's a daily digital detox. Secondly, if I'm going to have anything to drink, it's going to be half a glass of red wine and nothing more. Thirdly is I have a pact with my family members, and we had one of our polls earlier, you know, that this has an impact on our family. 25% of us saying it does. I've got 2 daughters, 21 and 23. They have got 3 degrees between the 2 of them, and neither of them are working. So it's a stressful time. No income coming in for those 2 young girls who have spent years studying. So I have said to them, it doesn't matter what they're doing in their days, and I'll share some of the things that they're doing, pretty much what Nick said around volunteerism. And I have said to them that by 8 o'clock at night, I don't want to hear about this problem you have or that problem or whatever. Like, that is my full stop in my day. So I run myself an Epsom salts bath. I pick lavender out the garden. I put lavender in my bath, and I read a novel. So many of us, TV is the easy way to end your day. Please switch that TV off. Please go and borrow a book from a mate. I went to a mate, I said, what are your 10 best books you've ever read? Because she's an avid reader. I took all 10 and I'm working my way through them. And it really switches off my day off from the problems, the issues, and the demands that I have in my day. And it's my replenishment. What happens when I'm not watching TV or on a cell phone is that my pineal gland starts saying, okay, it's time to produce melatonin. So when I hit my pillow, many of us go to bed quite easy and are exhausted, but we wake up at 2, 3 in the morning worrying. That's because you don't have enough melatonin to keep you in stage 4 sleep. So your brain goes through stage 1, 2, 3, 4, a REM cycle where you dream 1, 2, 3, 4. So the way you end your day is incredibly important for that deep sleep. So that's your pinky promise. Your ring finger is a commitment to yourself, and your ring finger is oxygen to your brain. So Tracy spoke about this as well, breathing. So I'm going to just do a breathing technique, and I'll only do it once with you. It's based on medical science by Dr. Mercola, who's popularized this. I use this probably, and I'm hand on heart here, I would say 4 times a day on average. My daughters, I know they use it even more than I do. So sit up in your chair, and you're now facing a problem that you've got to solve, or you almost feel your heart is going into that panic attack mode. So the breathing is what Tracy mentioned, and I like to use this breathing technique. It's 3 steps. There are numbers attached to each step. You don't have to be absolutely accurate with your numbers, and if you forget the numbers, it doesn't matter. But it's breathing in to 4 counts, it's holding your breath for 7 counts, and it's breathing slowly out for 8 counts. The reason that ratio exists is that as you breathe in, you expand your rib cage sideways, you hold your breath, and then the 8 counts to breathe out, you exhale slowly and get rid of that stale air at the bottom of your lungs. It also gives your brain this kind of brain interrupter moment. So when you're spiraling down quite quickly, you want to just have this pause moment and have that breathing technique at hand. It's free, you should never forget it. So you breathe in for 4, hold for 7 counts, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and breathe slowly out through your mouth for 8. I'd said I'd only do it once because I've got other techniques to share, but write that down, 4, 7, 8. It is absolutely magnificent. If I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, which sometimes I do, worrying, is I just lie there, I feel my toes, I feel my fingers, I try and relax my shoulders, and I go, right, Joni, let's do 3 or 4 rounds of 4, 7, 8. And the counting just tries to, it does interrupt some of that frequency of thinking and kind of your thoughts going haywire. So that's your ring finger. Your middle finger is the opposite of the middle finger. I'll not be too visual here, but that finger really is what I call the self-compassion finger. So what is the self-compassion all about? It really is about opening your heart. So I've got a lot of emotional intelligence techniques that I like to teach people, but I thought today in the limited time that we have together is I would just share that optimism as an emotional intelligence competency. It's one of the 8 competencies we can learn. Optimism is a force multiplier. And when we are in survival mode with no work and financial issues and dependencies of children and family issues and death and trauma and many of us suffering post-traumatic stress syndrome, is that it's hard to be optimistic. So what I do to be optimistic is I do 2 daily gratitude moments. I am not one of those really good people who write a gratitude journal. I just don't do it. I wish I could. Many people do it, and it's fantastically good for you. But this is how I have my optimistic gratitude moments twice a day. All of us brush our teeth twice a day. Yes, I hope you remember to do that. So while I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I am an exercise person in the morning, I'm brushing my teeth and I think, what am I grateful for? And today I'm in Cape Town, and I had the pleasure of running around Rondebosch Common and looking at the mountain, and there's blue sky down in Cape Town. There's a bit of a wind, which was magnificent. And I brushed my teeth and I thought, how lucky am I to be in Cape Town? I'm with my grandchildren. You can see Garfield behind my shoulder here. So the children do bring me a whole lot of happiness, and grandchildren are just the best because you can give them back. So, I do that optimism moment in the morning, and I do it at the end of the day, is what am I grateful for today? And even if it is something like Nick said so well, and it was a Perla comment, is that he schedules his day. He keeps himself busy so that he doesn't get lost in his head. So what is it that you have done today where you've, as Tracy said, you've made your bed, you've put lipstick on, you've put perfume on, you've got dressed, you're not in your pajamas, you've scheduled and you've done something. So what is it that you can be optimistic about? I want to keep on this middle finger in terms of volunteerism, because Eldred had that lovely question which Kevin read out about helping others. And how do you keep going was one aspect of her question. And I have to say, for my 21-year-old daughter, she has joined Lafika, which is at the Children's Memorial Institute in Johannesburg and Braamfontein. And she has scheduled every Thursday afternoon to go and volunteer there from between 2 and 5 to help inner city children. She does have psychology as part of her undergrad degree and drama. And that Lafika have this magnificent combination of psychology, psychologists, drama therapists, and creative therapists. And she volunteers there every single Thursday afternoon. And it's been tough for 21-year-olds seeing what inner city children are going through. Some of them, their parents can't afford them to send them to school, no food, etc. But that consistency of belonging to a group, Eldred, where you are committed to go on a certain day of the week. I loved what Nick said about going to volunteer in the hospital, because that also makes us incredibly grateful that we are not in that sick state and we are not hospitalized. So look at what you can do with consistency, where there is a commitment and an accountability to what you're doing. So that's all in this middle finger. It's the self-compassion for yourself, but obviously that breeds self-compassion for other people as well. I also like what Tracy said in terms of the purpose with animals. My 23-year-old daughter teaches horse riding, earns very little money doing it, but communing with horses and communing with children is her way of keeping grounded while she can't find a job. And it's again, it's that consistency. Now we've done the middle finger. Let's do this finger. This finger, the index finger, is often what mom and dad said, stop, 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 didn't they? Well, I would like to really say, in terms of managing your emotions and managing your mind, the thing that we have got to stop is binge eating, and specifically sugar. So I would really like to encourage all of us who are suffering anxiety and overwhelm and slipping into depression, is that sugar is absolutely a no-no in terms of how it affects your brain and how it gets us into an addictive spiral. So I'd really like to plead with you to start a little veggie garden, to start eating as close to nature as possible. Eat whatever fruits are in season. It doesn't have to be expensive. I mean, a real treat for me is cutting an apple into a shape of a flower, which I do for myself and my grandchildren, and putting some peanut butter on. And I suffer low blood pressure, so I put a bit of salt on, and that's a very delicious snack. And it's very close to nature, and it's extremely reasonable. So the stop sugar is imperative for all of us. We binge eat. It makes us sluggish. We don't want to get off the couch. We don't want to exercise, and that is problematic. So we want to be able to exercise daily. The World Health Organization does say at least 20 minutes a day of heightened heart rate. So if you can't go outside and exercise, you just can't face the world, get up and do 10 squats. Set your alarm to go off every hour and stand up and do 10 squats. But you want to stop that sugar and you want that self-discipline to get into motion. There's a saying that we use when we are counseling and working with teams and groups of people, and it goes like this: motion shifts emotion. So when you're starting to get highly anxious, you do your breathing exercise and you get into motion. It's 10 squats. I have to say, when I'm getting into a slight panic attack, I drop down to the floor and I challenge myself to do a 3-minute plank. The first minute, I can be thinking. The second minute, I'm going, Joni, you're never going to survive this. And the third minute, I'm just counting the seconds. There is no ways I can think about anything else if I've challenged myself to a 3-minute plank. It is so jolly difficult, but it's a very good brain interrupter, because I'm just in the breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And I'm, on the floor, pegged on the floor with these, this part of your arm and your legs out straight. It's really good to just get into motion to shift emotion. And then the last thing I wanted to say, if you're using your left hand, we've got the pinky promise, the bed and the sleep. We've got the oxygen to your brain and the breathing. We've got this middle finger, which is the self-compassion, your gratitude prayer and your optimism twice a day. We've got the stop sugar. Can you guess what this is? I mean, it's thumbs up, isn't it? And that is time for fun. So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So what are the things that you can do time for fun? Again, going back to what Nick said, is he's gone back to his hobbies. What are your hobbies? He said very explicitly about how lonely it can be, and it can be lonely. So what we did in lockdown 5, and we've continued to do it as a family, is we set up Zoom meetings at night with fun quizzes, and we set up, funny outfits to wear. We've had funny hat evenings. We've had, funny food evenings. We've really, potato man, how do we do it? So with my daughters and their friends, around South Africa and around the world, we've had really good fun quiz evenings. And it's just been hilarious to do that. We've had dancing evenings. We have a mini trampoline at home, and we have mini trampoline jumping competitions. And they, as I said, they're 21 and 23. So, you're never too old to have that kind of fun. But I seem to see that we need to plan it. We need to say Thursday night is our quiz night. What are we going to do on Thursday night? So really look at what fun moments you can have with your children. With my grandchildren now, who are 3 and 1, I mean, they just bring incredible pleasure to me. So, making food together and having some fun dinosaur chasing, reading storybooks, that kind of thing. It's just finding the way of giving and having fun in community. If you live at home alone, it's exceptionally difficult. I have found that my friends who live alone, they have animals, they certainly do help. But find ways that you plan to have fun. So I hope those 5 practical tips have helped, and I'm very happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure, Kevin, you will steer all the questions to Nick, Tracy, or myself.
Actually, I'm going to steal abuse my position of power and ask you my own question first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I was very interested when you were talking about the importance of being optimistic, but I am inherently an optimistic person, but I have also been accused of being completely and utterly delusional, and at some point you have to understand that what you see as optimism, other people see as delusional. So maybe you could just talk about bringing some realism into that optimism, because there's not much point in just having completely unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. I'm going to use something that I use, and I call it the 3 optimism bridges. So imagine a raging river, and on the left-hand side of the river, we have got these feelings of something being permanent, of being pervasive, and being all-powerful. So if you want to get across that raging river, let's just do each of the 3 bridges one by one. So if something feels permanent in your life, it just feels like This is never going to end. And yes, I mean, with COVID, we don't know when it's going to end. But if you think, you know, I'm never going to go back into events. In fact, I'm seeing some events already being held in a hybrid way. We have one for the PSASA in April. We have a hybrid event. So events are starting to happen. In smaller ways, they are. So permanent, you can cross the bridge to temporary. These, you know, I flew from Johannesburg to Cape Town. It's much easier than it was in November when I flew. So some of these things are changing, and actually it's not going to be permanent all the time. It's going to be temporary. So you can start to think what is permanent and what's going to be temporary. That's a bridge to a more optimistic mindset. The second bridge is pervasive. If you feel, you know, you've had an argument with 2 family members and, you know, you feel this is pervasive, everybody in your life is fighting with you. Everybody is a popole of note. I hope that's not a rude word to use on a panel. But you know what? It's really not pervasive. It's in one aspect of your life that you've had a severe clash, maybe, you know, with 2 family members. But reach out to a friend. I mean, Kevin, I hope you're with your optimistic mindset, and it's not delusional. I know I don't know you that well, but you know, I'm hoping that your friends reach out to you. I have got friends that I know are really optimistic, and when I'm having a down day, I phone them. And I just say, I'm having a down day. I don't want to talk about reality, you know, and they will, you know, sing a happy song with me. I mean, I literally have got those friends that they're on speed dial for me. So, you know, it's not pervasive in your life when you're fighting with people. The third P and the third and last bridge is when you just feel that it's all powerful and all over your life and there's no sense of control. And that P leads across the bridge to say, I have effort possible. So I have effort possible to think, I am going to earn some money. I mean, I've said to my children, bake some goods, you know, have a look at, you know, there are many people who are really battling. I mean, my one daughter is very fastidious about no sugar and gluten-free, and she's made some gluten-free muesli, and she's gone to sell it at our local coffee shop. Effort possible. She made a couple of $100. I mean, it was fantastic. She put petrol in her car and boom, 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 off she went. So there are things that you can do and you can go and make. I find for myself is I'm carrying food in my car, tinned food, if it's possible to help a few people at a few traffic lights. So what are the things that we can do that make us feel good if you can't go and volunteer? That will make you happy. And then you know, at the traffic light, or I perhaps park my car, I'll have a chat to the person at the traffic light, find out about their life. You know, it's a quick interlude. It makes me feel good. We can have a laugh and a joke. If they are smoking, and Nicholas, I saw you smoking earlier, hashtag just saying, I will, oh yes, look at him, is I will laugh and joke. I've got a guy who is a car guard in 2 roads down from me, and I support him. And he says, Joni, you didn't see me smoking. But if I drive past, I embarrass my daughters because I roll down the window and I go, I saw you smoking, Phineas. And I scream out the window, and he laughs and he laughs. And I mean, it's a joke as I drive past. Of course, the next time I drive past, I'm not going to give him $20. And I say, no, today you're not getting $20 because you were smoking. I saw you. You know, and it's that kind of sense of community and that sense of fun. So I do my tiny bits. It's my effort possible. I'm not changing the world, but I'm changing people. I'm helping people around me, I hope. So you're not delusional, Kevin. Your positive attitude, we need more of it.
So Joni, I know that you needed to leave us at 11, and so we're smack on 11. You're welcome to stay. In fact, I'd appreciate it if you did, but I'm aware that sometimes these things, yeah, it's fine. I think one of the things I wanted to say is that there are many support systems that are available, and I'm aware that the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture is in the process of introducing a support program specifically to assist people working in the cultural and creative industry. And Jakes Makumi should be with us, and he's asked for a short opportunity. Yes. So Jakes, maybe you can just bring us up to speed. What is DSAC doing? And maybe if you could just outline a bit of information about the program they're introducing, because I think that there are many organizations that can provide help to people that are experiencing and anxiety. Personally, I'm often skeptical about government, but this seems to be one of those things they're doing that has value.
No, thank you very much. Many people are, but when someone is doing a good thing, even sometimes the most reformed criminals can do good things. We started this project before COVID, because we're not gonna, to be honest, artists have been going through difficult times even before COVID. COVID, we were on life support, and COVID really came and switched off the machine, to be honest. So a lot of artists, especially because we are mainly, like, I'm based in Joburg, in big metros, things are not as bad like in your out in rural areas. There's still artists there that are going through a lot of things. But before I go in, Tracy, if I can get your details, I would like to have a private. I'm glad that you guys can see me. I got emotional right there. You are speaking. I would like to continue a chat with you if you don't mind. I'll get your details from Kevin. So I really, really, really appreciate that. I didn't know I've got anxiety issues until I listened to you. I'm coming back to this one. What government is doing, they are launching, like I said, it started way before the pandemic. I think what triggered it most is, like, most of you know a rapper by the name of Double HP that committed suicide. And what was strange with him is that it's not that he was not doing well. His music was doing well. He was booked. Everything was okay. But for some reason, I mean, he went live on radio and said he tried to commit suicide 3 times. And people were listening, not even a single person, organization, everyone reached out to him to say, how can we help you? What is the problem? I mean, he really, really made it live, put it live out there that he's been trying to commit suicide. He failed 3 times until eventually he committed suicide. And many, many artists are committing suicide. So hence I'm saying that's when government realized that, we all think that artists' problems are jobs and money. If they get jobs and they make money, their problems are over. That's why the theme of today's event is that speaking or engaging the human in arts. An artist can go through molestation issues at a young age. Artists can go through a divorce. The artist can survive rape, cancer, and all those things. But we view them on stage. We don't view them as human beings. I think Nick will attest to that. They just perform, and after that, they're on our TV and then move right along. So, one of the artists, Tandiswa, said something that, she was at the airport, she was crying, she had a personal issue. She tried to hide. One of the fans approached her. She thought this fan is coming to console her. She just wanted a selfie and wanted to go. Like, she doesn't see a human being. And this is what has been happening. And when you try to come out as an artist, it's newspaper headline. Artists' problems are entertainment. So they have no one to speak to. I've been an artist for a very long time, whereby we just have to keep it to ourselves. You're not doing well, you cannot afford counseling. So on this program, counseling, there will be face-to-face counseling, which is free for artists. They have 5 sessions. But if the problem is really, 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 really there that they need to, then the counselor will advise the department that, look, this person, the problem is very serious. We might need more sessions. And then there's a call center. It's a 24-hour call center, 365, that is going to be launched. And the call center is not call center agents. It's qualified counselors and psychiatrists and social workers. So they will speak their side. So some might say, look, again, some might say, I want it in Xhosa, I want it in Afrikaans, I want to speak to a Muslim, I want to speak to a person. Or some might say, because of COVID, I don't want to face-to-face, I want to do a video call. And there's a please call me option and all those things. So we have tried to open up, and we are working with a wellness company called NBC. So again, when we do the outreaches, we're gonna travel the whole country from now on. And when we are in Western Cape, Nick, if you are based that side, you are really more than welcome to join us, because we will have panelists. Before, myself, Tracy, I've been to counseling twice, and it was hard for me to open, and I just ran away. I'll be honest with you, on a personal base, been through a divorce myself. So I kind of like did not, it took me long, and then, you know, we don't really open it easy. So if you have a Nicholas that comes and talk, who's part of them, Nick says, listen, this is what I've been through. This is what happened. I had alcohol issues. I had these issues. I had issues. I conquered them. You know, then most artists, when they look at one of them going through this, they start to relax. Then Nick will, or whoever the panelists will advise them, look, counselors are here. Go talk to them. You don't have to talk to them now. Take the numbers. After they're all gone, you can consult with them. And it's free, like we said. I know counseling can go between $750 to $850. You know, it's a great initiative. Yesterday, and Kevin was part of that, we were addressing again the stakeholders again. And I said to them, it will be a biggest mistake if I know by the industry has its own politics, and Kevin will know that, if politics can disturb this initiative, it has nothing to do much with the industry. It's about the artist himself. As much as I'm a member of a group or a member of a union or arts group, I'm alone doing this. And we want to cover the whole industry. We don't know what a sound man is going through. He's still in the arts industry. That's why we say art practitioners. You don't know what the photographer is going through. You know, we don't know what the fashion designer or anyone, because it's a very, very broad. Hence, we said we started before COVID, because what the department and the minister wanted us to do, said we know a lot about musicians, we know a lot about actors, we know a lot, but there are other art sectors that we really don't know much. What are their personal challenges? What, not industry challenges only, what do they go through? What is happening on this? We have artists with disabilities. We think we know, but we really don't know that much. I know you gave me 5 minutes there, but anyone that wants any question, want to ask me any question, anything, Kevin has got that. We have a program today, and it's a webinar again, where the minister is launching the event. It's starting at 2:30. So 2 o'clock, you can start linking in, and then he will explain it, everyone. And again, we have invited panelists there that are gonna be there, and we invited Jack. Jack was on Musidingo. He played the character of Rajesh. We've got a couple of artists that are going to talk to the panelists, talk to the audience, and engage them about what they have been through in the arts personally. What, you know, we have a lady called Florence Masebe. You know, it's a well-known thing. You know, she survived the heat. I mean, she was shot 40 times while she was inside a car, and she survived that. She lost a child, you know, an 18-month-old baby. Information that is out there. How did you survive that? Personally, I don't think I would have survived that. How do you survive that? You know, like I said, when we started with Nick, listening to Nick, you know, when other artists are listening to all these people that have been through the worst in the arts, the worst thing you can go through as an artist is to have an artist going through something and you cannot help because you yourself are going through the same thing. So I won't make it a long one, Kevin. We thank you so much. And I hope that is not the end of us discussing this. Thank you, sir.
So, Jakes, I have only one thing to you to say, actually 2 things. The first is that, you know, I'm very pleased that the department is taking the initiative to make support systems available to individuals working in the industry. I know you've spoken much about artists. The reality, and we've spoken about this, so I feel comfortable saying it, is that you're not just talking about the artists, you're talking about all of the support crew, technical production as well. They are an integral, from our perspective, one of the most important components of the creative sector. So let's make sure that we don't leave technical crew out of this discussion. And I'm pleased that Jack is joining us, or joining you in your launch this afternoon. We've just developed professional designations for actors, and we work very closely with the Guild of Actors in that process. So yeah, well done. There are a couple of questions that have come in, some of which we're going to be able to answer. I know that we're running tight on time, so actually I'm going to say cheerio, and then I'm going to ask Nick and Tracy just to wrap up, and in that process answer the questions that I've allocated to you as we've gone.
Thanks, Kevin. Am I on? Can you hear, Nick?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. All righties. Perfect. All right. So, Kevin, once again, thank you so much for the platform. I'm just picking up. I think certainly technology is a little bit slow today, which immediately kind of says that we start to experience anxiety. I'm just wanting to see where the questions are coming through so that we can hopefully answer each person. I think what I want to also just say is, while I'm looking at that, is to really give the support to people who have attended today, to understand and know that one of our areas of great support is, as an NPO, we are very used to helping people how to navigate the government and municipal systems to get medical intervention, therapy and support. And it's a massive change, and particularly when your whole world has changed because of lack of income, no job, and very often things like insurance and medical aid are the things that have to get cancelled. It doesn't mean that you cannot get help. And so one of the things that we are able to assist you with through this NPOwer support line is to identify correctly with you which area you are in, where you can get free support and assistance, both in the hospital and clinic system, and very often through other networks and other NPOs as well. So it's one of the things that provides a holistic option for you when you do decide to make a phone call to this line and try and get some support and direction. Nick, from your side, anything else you want to add?
It was actually very nice to hear everyone's presentations and chats, and I just hope that everyone out there could actually, kind of see, the similarities between the stories. Quite often I will look for anything that makes me different and anything for a difference that doesn't make me the same. So, I hope that people have kind of related to what we've said today, because, what I guess the signs are, and how the different approaches to dealing with stress and anxiety, because it's like I say, it comes in different phases and different strengths, and I think it's been great, and it's nice to see that there's something there for the artists. I mean, there's lots of organisations and fellowships out there to help with the different, I guess, side effects of this. So and people will react in different ways. So there is a lot of help out there, and definitely no one out there's alone. We just got to reach out, and we just got to find someone, and talking about it is going to help as well. That's all I got to say, really.
Yeah, I think what we've learned so much today is that, number one, seek support, even if it starts with phoning a call line, a toll-free number, the NPO helpline 0800 515 515. The great thing about talking to a stranger is that there's no reference of judgment. It often brings you back into the moment, and sometimes it's the simple things that make a huge big difference to our life. So I think getting back into that idea of remembering that, reaching out, getting help, talking, making sure you've got a very minimal routine each and every day are some of the very simple ideas that the panelists have shared with you today, so that we're able to say, stick it out, make a change, make a difference, and yeah, just try and remember that you're not alone. Yes, we are in our homes, isolated, but we're not alone. And I think that, Nick, you'll know better than anyone else, through the platforms and the various communication chats that you've got in your industry, there really is a lot of you that you can reach out to one another and say, let's just have a chat, even if it's a virtual coffee or a virtual beer. And it's amazing how much talking to somebody does just help. It doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't make the magic wand. So I think time is up, hey? It's been wonderful to be here, Nick. It's been wonderful to meet you, to Kevin and Joni. And we hope that we've added value to everyone who joined today. Thank you.